This meeting is being audio and video recorded for live streaming on the internet. Recordings will be available on the City of Belmont's website, on the City of Belmont's YouTube channel following the meeting. For those in the public gallery, if you choose to talk during this meeting, your voice may be recorded and live streamed. Your image may be captured, and if so, it will be recorded and live streamed. If a member of the public wishes to ask a question at public question time, your voice and image will be recorded and live streamed. By remaining at this meeting, your consent to your voice and image being recorded and live streamed to the public. If you do not consent to your voice and image being recorded and live streamed to the public, then you will need to leave the meeting. I will now pause the proceedings to provide those who do not consent to their voice and image being recorded and live streamed to leave the meeting if they wish to do so. All members of the public gallery who have decided to stay are hereby deemed to have consent to their voice and image being captured, live streamed and recorded. Other than the City, no person present at the meeting is to use any electronic, visual or audio recording device or instrument to record proceedings of a meeting without the written permission of Council. Standing Orders 2017, Section 8.17. Acknowledgement of Country. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. I further acknowledge their cultural heritage, beliefs, connection and relationship to this land which continues today. Councillor Sessions, would you please read aloud the affirmation of civic duty and responsibility on behalf of councillors and officers present?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make this affirmation in good faith and declare that I will duly, faithfully, honestly and with integrity fulfil the duties of my office for all the people in the City of Belmont according to the best of my judgment and ability. I will observe the City's Code of Conduct and Standing Orders to ensure efficient, effective and orderly decision making within this forum.
Thank you, Councillor Sessions. Apologies and leave of absence. I note there's no apologies for this meeting. Leave of absence, there's no councillors recorded as having a leave of absence for this meeting. Declarations of interest. Will the Senior Governance Officer please advise of those declarations made to date? Financial interests.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the Mayor, there are no declarations of financial interest for this evening.
Disclosure of interest affecting impartiality.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have a number of those this evening. Firstly, Councillor Kulczycki for item 12.1, the Activity Centre Planning Strategy. His properties are located within the 200-metre catchment area of two of the activity centres addressed in the strategy, and he is familiar with some of the parties who made contributions outlined in the schedule of submissions. Councillor Sessions has declared an interest in item 12.2, the proposed local planning policy number 19 for short-term rental accommodation, as she lives within the proposed location for the future STRA. And I also like to add that all councillors have declared an impartiality interest in item 14.1 and 14.2, but the nature of interest is not read out due to the confidential nature of the matter being considered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Announcements by presiding member without discussion. There is none. Announcements 4.1. There is no announcements. 4.2. Disclaimer. At 6:34, I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decisions made at this meeting tonight can be revoked pursuant to the Local Government Act of 1995. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing by Council has been received. 4.3. Declarations by members who have not given due consideration to all matters contained in the business papers presently before Council. Are there any declarations to be made by councillors? There are none. 5. Public question time. 5.1. Responses to questions taken on notice. Responses to questions taken on notice from the ordinary council meeting of the 12th of December are noted on the agenda for Mr. Bell, Mr. Hollins, Miss Hollins, on behalf of Belmont Resident Ratepayers Group, and Miss Hollins herself and Mr. Cardoso. 5.2, questions from members of the public. It is 6:35, and I open public question time and draw attention to the public gallery of the rules of public question time as written in the question time form. In accordance with Rule L, I advise that Section 6.4, members of the public are reminded they must extend due courtesy and respect to both councillors and employees. You must not use inappropriate, objectionable or untruthful expressions or expressions that reflect adversely on the character or actions of councillors or employees. If any expression is deemed inappropriate, you'll be directed to withdraw the expression and apologise. If you do not comply, I will end your question. I remind and caution all present at this meeting on making defamatory statements at public proceedings, and note that these proceedings are now broadcast via live streaming. I have 6 members of the public who have given prior notice to asking questions, these being Ms Hollins on behalf of Bragg, Mr Harris, Mr Bell, Mr Rossellini, Mr Cardoso. Are there any other members of the gallery wish to ask questions, please? Ms G. Thank you. We'll now go to, if there's nobody else, go to Ms Hollins. Please go ahead.
Good evening, councillors, and nice to see a good public gallery here tonight. I'd like to start with my personal questions, and as a result of your announcement, Mayor Rossi, I'm going to have to change that. Firstly, I'd like to know when we were here in November, the CEO, and I've listened to the recording, categorically stated it would be incidental to the members of the public gallery or anyone speaking on this lectern asking questions that we would be recorded. The councillors voted in December for the policy on the basis that the gallery was not being recorded, and your former manager of governance categorically stated it was only there, just needed. So I'd like to know what's changed and why all you councillors have sat there and let this happen, because I'm sure there's people in the public gallery that, and perhaps watching this tonight, that won't want to come and ask questions because of it. Is that the idea?
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Worship. What I can confirm is the recording and live streaming of this meeting is fully compliant with a council policy that was adopted by council.
Your next question?
Yes, I agree the policy is compliant, but that is not what we were told. You didn't answer my question, Mr CEO. Can you please answer the question why it's changed to what we all heard in December?
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Worship. I think from memory, back in December, there was talk about incidental coverage of members of the gallery, and we would try to avoid that where we can. The reality is anyone addressing this council at public question time is participating in the meeting and therefore will be captured and live streamed. And as I says, the policy details this, and this meeting is being held in accordance with that policy.
I didn't suggest it wasn't, CEO. I'm saying that that's not what was discussed and that's not what the councillors voted on. So I'll go to my next question.
Next question, please.
On the 20th of September, I made a complaint to the CEO regarding the threat I received from a senior staff member at the special meeting of the 19th of September 23. I believe 2 other residents submitted complaints about the same staff member's conduct. None of the complainants had any response from the city. On 2nd of February this year, after phoning the city, a staff member, thinking I was on mute, referred to me as a nuisance call. I contacted the acting CEO after the incident and he rang me and apologised on behalf of the city, which I appreciated. I also asked why there was gossip being instigated and how it was happening, and that I suggested that perhaps the staff member should perhaps apologise. So my question would be, what standard does the city have with respect to staff behaviour? What process does the city adopt when investigating such complaints? And why isn't the staff in charge of dealing with complaints complying with the customer service charter requirements? Because I haven't had a response to that one within the 10 days.
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Worship. Given the content of that question, I'll take that on notice and respond.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll go to the Bragg questions, if I may.
Actually, I need to go to questions by the public, members of the public who've submitted. So if you take a seat, I'll call you back up.
Okay.
So I do apologise to Jared Harris. You've submitted some questions. Would you like to come up and read your question? And we've got a response for you.
Good evening, I'm Jared Harris, 12 Finnan Street in Cloverdale. Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors, city staff and public gallery. My first questions are about the roadworks on Belvedere Street between Hardy Road and Keema Street, which are nearing completion at the moment. This length of road is a missing link in the city's long-term cycle network, which was approved and signed off in 2020. As of now, it is a high-traffic, unsafe environment for people on bikes. But roadworks here gives the city the chance to improve the safety and amenity at very low additional cost at the same time as repairing the road surface. What infrastructure is the city installing here to make this a safer and more welcoming environment to encourage cycling?
Thank you. I'll get you a response, Mr CEO.
Thank you, Worship. The scope of the roadworks on Belvedere Street between Hardy Road and Keema Street was road resurfacing only. It did not incorporate the inclusion of new safety measures for cyclists. The city will be reviewing and updating the integrated movement network strategy, Belmont on the Move, and the sustainable transport plan this calendar year. This review will look at improved cycle network opportunities throughout the city, including Belvedere Street. The Belvedere Street Revitalisation Project will create a slow-speed shared space that prioritises pedestrians and cyclists, and design for this project will commence soon. Thank you, Your Worship.
Your second question?
Sure. In conversations with city officers, I've been told that the usual approach of the city is to do multiple jobs at the same site at the same time to make it more efficient and get more things done. Is that not the case when it comes to cycling and other roadworks?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. That's not the question that was submitted previously in writing, but I'm happy to take that on notice and I'll respond.
Okay. I'll pass on the remainder of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now go back to Ms Hollins on behalf of Bragg.
Okay, on the 26th of November, Bragg wrote to the CEO with respect to a councillor loan for legal expenses. We asked, in accordance with the legal representation policy, if there'd been any written response regarding the payment of the money. So my question, has the money been repaid back as yet? And if not, has a letter been written to the councillor requesting the reimbursement of all monies owed? And if not, why not, given that the whole matter wrapped up on the 23rd of January?
Thank you, Worship. I will take that on notice.
Thank you. So do you know if the letter's been written at all? The letter of demand?
Mr CEO, can you answer that?
Thank you, Worship. As I said, I'll take the question on notice.
Last night, as of last night, the minor breach register is not up to date. You're aware of an update to the register on the 30th of November 23. At the very least, it should have been done since 23rd of January this year. So my question, why is the minor breach register not up to date? And is it correct it is the governance department that's responsible for its update?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I'm not aware of that, so I'll take that on notice as well, and I will respond.
Thank you. Councillors Rossi and Sakula recently did a jaunt to Japan for the Sister City program. A lot's been made of these programs on commercial, on radio and whatnot recently. So my question, can you confirm the cost of the trip to the ratepayer? How much did each child get from the City of Belmont, and what did each parent have to pay to cover the airfares and accommodation?
Mr CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to clarify one thing. The delegation that went to Japan was not a jaunt, as you have stated. I take offence at that statement, but I will take on the rest of that question on notice and respond.
Thank you very much.
media and what are saying that these trips across the board in all local governments to sister cities, that's the word that they are using. I'll just clarify that. Okay, my next question.
Mr.
on that
CEO,
one.
sorry.
Thank you, Worship. What the media refer to these trips as is completely irrelevant. What I can tell you is it's not a jaunt and the city does not support that type.
Okay, and when will we be getting the councillors' report be made publicly available for the ratepayers so we can assess the value of these little trips?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Worship. My understanding is that the councillors who attended present to an information forum and update other councillors, but I will confirm that and take the question on notice.
Thank you.
So will the public get a document or something to assess?
Mr. CEO?
Will that be publicly available?
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. As I said, I'll take that part of the question on notice and respond.
Thank you.
Mr. Bell?
My name is Adrian Bell of 58 Lyell Street, Redcliffe. Mr Mayor, councillors, city staff and fellow residents. My first question is, at the November council meeting, the city advised that the crash ranking for the intersection of Lyell and Staten was 2,123 and went further to classify it as a very low by comparison to other intersections. At the December council meeting, the city provided the crash ranking for mooring in Victoria as 1,917, at the time of the 2021 mooring calming approval. Can the city classify this ranking for comparison purposes, i.e. is it also very low or low?
Thank you. You may defer to the Director of Infrastructure Services, but we might need to take that on notice.
Director of Infrastructure Services, are you able to answer that or take it on notice?
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll take that on notice.
Thank you. Next question, please.
From the December council minutes, the city confirmed 25 crashes at roughly 12,000 vehicles on Stanton. During the same period, there were 19 crashes on Lyell at less than 3,000 vehicles. The Main Roads Funding Program is based on road safety. Statistically, Lyell Street is a significantly less safe road than Stanton. To save ratepayer money, why can't the city apply for a grant for Lyell Street as it would easily qualify?
Director of Infrastructure Services.
Your Worship, we will take that question on notice.
Your next question, Mr. Bell.
The city has confirmed that the warrant system was utilised for the 218,000 mooring traffic calming project in 2021. When there is significant ratepayer money being expended, why is the application of the warrant system discretionary? And who makes a decision to use or not use the system?
Director of Infrastructure Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll take that on notice.
And my last question is, the traffic counting speed strips cause significant distress to some residents and a loss of amenity to most residents near the strips. How many traffic counts were commissioned by the city in the suburb of Redcliffe during the calendar years 2021, 2022 and 2023 respectively? And what has been the collective cost during this 3-year period?
Director of Infrastructure Services, who may need to take this on notice.
Confirm I'll take this on notice. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rossellini.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Luigi Rosolini, 355 Sydenham Street, Belmont, West Australia. First, I want to precise the last council ratepayer meeting. I say something was wrong. I've been at the city of Belmont as a resident probably from 87, and as a ratepayer probably from 1988, much longer than what I stated at the last meeting. My question is regarding something already asked before at the ratepayer meeting. It's regarding the local government SCT 1995 Division 8. Local pie may give to its member 0.59.8, 0.5.99 and 0.599A. Now, I've been told when council are away on the budget last year, all councillors attending or not attending the meeting have been by full attendance. Now, on 599A, to have that been paid, to be a resolution, a vote by all members or the member of the council with absolute majority to have passed that. I was asking, had that been done? I mean, pass a resolution on that or not?
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Worship. I don't have a copy of the Local Government Act in front of me to refer to sections 5.98, 5.99 and 5.99A, so I'll take that question on notice.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoso?
Another question. Regarding the building just outside here, the new building, I wonder if what action will be taken to rectify the building structure problem have at the front, a slab going down or one go up. I wonder what point we are with the manutention of the building.
Director of Infrastructure Services, are you able to answer that now or take it on notice?
I'll take that question on notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoso?
My name is Martin Cardozo of 56 Lyell Street, Redcliffe. Mayor, councillors, city staff and fellow residents. This question is a governance question. The city's website indicates that an information forum should have no direct relationship to an agenda briefing forum or an ordinary council meeting. From a technical perspective, can a resident traffic calming petition that is part of an OCM and is then subsequently the subject of an alternate motion at the same OCM technically be referred to an information forum? Question. And if there is a compliance issue, how does this impact the alternate motion?
Mr. CEO?
I might need to take that on notice because I'm not sure when you say a resolution here to put something back to an information forum, that is generally to do with a notice of motion that's been raised. But I'll take that on notice because there are standing orders and procedural motions that can be used to defer things back to an IF, but I'll take that on notice just to clarify.
There is actually a flowchart on the city's website. That's where I grabbed it from. Thank you. It is recognised as part of the pros and cons of speed humps that noise can be an issue. The city has confirmed that 1/3 of residents didn't want speed humps on Mooring Street. Since the 2021 installation, can the city provide a summary of the formal complaints received?
Director of Infrastructure Services?
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3. The city is likely well advanced in the rollout planning phase of the Stanton traffic calming project. Given the significant impact on local residents, 2 schools and the PTA buses, roughly how long is construction projected to take from start to finish? Is it days, weeks or months? Director
of Infrastructure Services?
We would anticipate the works would take around 6 weeks.
Sorry, was that, can you, I didn't hear that, sorry.
Approximately 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay, thank you. Last question. The Stanton Road Traffic Calming Program represents an unprecedented deployment of speed humps and traffic calming devices that has been progressed without any apparent analysis or modelling, without consultation with the community that will be affected or impacted, and without direction from the council. Stanton Road residents will be burdened with thousands of noise disturbances on a 24-hour basis, representing a significant loss of amenity and potential diminution of property value. Has the city taken into consideration that DA6 and wider Redcliffe residents who suffer from medical conditions such as arthritis, back and neck injuries, and the frail and elderly will have to endure a painful 2-kilometre journey?
Director of Infrastructure Services?
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll take that question on notice.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms G.
Mr Mayor and councillors and people in the gallery. Since the advent of COVID, people's living requirements have changed. With working from home options, studies have shown that people now want more than a small box. They want a little bit of outside space as well. I've had residents tell me they are concerned about where they live, that they do not feel safe, and with the higher density, Belmont is no longer geared to families. Belmont, the city of opportunity. As Mayor Rossi said last week, it was all about families and making Belmont family friendly. So why use the R100 code to its max? When stated in 12.1, it's not considered necessary for densities to increase in the city because we are meeting state government targets. Therefore, is council going to put a halt to these 4 stories? 3's high enough. And would councillors and officers be happy to live next to 4 stories? That's my first question.
It's actually 3 parts there. Mr. Lowe, are you able to answer that now or take it on notice?
I'll answer the question, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, the question regarding housing targets is set by the state government. So the city has been in a fortunate position to be able to deliver on the interim targets. There are targets into the future as well, which the city needs to continue planning for and to continue achieving those targets. And the densities set out in the strategic planning documents are aimed at achieving those targets.
Yes, thank you for that, but it was just a statement of what's in your information. It was the question about not doing 4 stories was the question. So in the next one, in my deputation last week, I stated that 13 high-frequency bus routes named as serving Belmont, 6 of those have not existed for over 18 months since the Redcliffe station was opened. And that is a reduction of 46%, and that is on page 68 of your report. So how old is this report? Who checks the report for accuracy? And with a report that obviously has errors in it, should the council be voting on this item tonight?
Mr. Lowe, Director of Development and Communities, please.
Through the chair, the information regarding bus services in the draft strategy document simply refers to the availability of high-frequency bus transport. The bus numbers and specific services are perhaps irrelevant, and the document is adopted at a point in time and will continue, or the essence of the document, principles of the document will continue into the future. The specifics of bus services were prepared at the time when the document was drafted.
Your next question?
The Belmont Bulletin. How much does it cost the ratepayers for staff to put it together, have it printed and delivered to residents? That's in a question. It's not a good look, as Belmont's latest edition had a few dates of the events that were incorrect. I did not check the whole thing as I'm not paid to proofread it. But I can tell you from now, your FOGO page, Friday the 16th of February was a correct date, but Saturday the 25th of March, Saturday's actually 23rd of March, and also on another page, again, wrong dates. And they were ones because it was noted I wanted to go to. So who's responsible for proofreading it, and what will council do to ensure that these dates are checked and correct next time?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Worship. There was a number of questions in there specifically about the cost and how much it does. I'll need to take that on notice, but my marketing team are responsible for assuring and proofreading a document. If there are errors in it, then I do apologise, but we'll certainly take that on board and we'll discuss that with staff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, one last question. I would like to know how councillors can vote on a code of conduct matter tonight when they have not been given all the evidence. And are council aware that they could put the respondent in a position of advantage?
I'm sorry, that's a confidential item. We'll not be answering that. Just allow it. Thank you. We'll now move on. There are no further questions, and we will close question time at 7 o'clock exactly. Confirmation of minutes and receipt of matrix of the ordinary council meeting held on the 12th of December. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Sakula. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons on the microphone screen. Thank you. It's carried. 6.2, matrix for the agenda briefing forum held on the 20th of February. Are there any questions on the matrix? May I have a mover and a seconder to note the matrix? Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Kulczycki. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons on your microphone screen.
We can't see what the vote is.
We have a slight little error, which it'll be fixed. Please, it's the first time.
Is still the voice register or not?
Voting is closed. There we go. Carried unanimously. Seven, questions by members on which due notice has been given. There are none. Questions by members without notice. There are none. Questions by members without notice. Are there any questions by members? No. You've got a question? No. Questions? There's only questions at the moment? No? None. Number 9, new business of an urgent nature. Is there any new business of an urgent nature?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wish to make a statement.
Please go ahead.
I advise I advise this meeting that a complaint was made to the Local Government Standards Panel in which it was alleged that I contravened the Local Government Model Code of Conduct 2021 when I made certain comments to a member of the public at the City's annual civic dinner held on the 3rd of December 2022. The panel found that by behaving in this matter, I committed one breach of Regulation 18 of the said regulations. I accept that I should not have acted in such a manner, and now I apologise to Mr Vaughan-Barker for having done so. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
We can hear if he doesn't speak up to the microphone.
I'm sorry, we can't take questions from the floor. I apologise. Number 10, business adjourned from previous meeting.
We didn't hear what he said because he doesn't have power for the microphone.
Just move on.
Business adjourned from previous meeting. There is none. Reports of committees. There is none. Reports of administration. Withdrawn items. Are there any items withdrawn? We have 12.1 for Councillor Sakula. Activity Centre Planning Strategy. Final adoption. 12.2, proposed local planning policy number 19, short-term rental accommodation. Councillor Davis. 12.3, scheme amendment 22. Councillor Kulczycki. 12.4, tender. None. 12.5. Order, please. Thank you. We'll now continue on with the Act of Governance. 12.4, tender, Belvedere Street Revitalisation Design. Nobody. 12.5, request for rate exemption. 12.6, request for rate exemption. Australian Executive Trustees. 12.7, accounts for payment. 12.8, accounts for payments for January. Monthly financial report for December. 12.10, monthly financial report for January. 12.11, statutory compliance audit return for 2023. May I have a move and a seconder to adopt the balance of the reports en bloc, with the exception of items 12.1, 12.2, 12.3. I may have missed somebody in the noise, so was anybody else I may have missed for any other item? No? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Sessions. Voting is now open. Please use the buttons on your microphone screen.
Mr. Mayor, can I just call a point of order, because I can't hear properly what's going on at the moment. Can we just hold the meeting for a few minutes until it's quieting down out there?
Door's been closed now.
Thank you.
Has everyone voted? Voting is now closed. Carried unanimously. For those people present in the gallery, please note that those items that have been not withdrawn have now been adopted by Council. You're welcome to stay and observe the remainder of tonight's proceedings, or you may wish to leave when convenient. As outlined previously, please do not rely on any Council decision until formal notification has been received in writing. Thank you. We move to 12.1. Moved by Councillor Sakula. We need a seconder. Councillor Davis. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Davis, for seconding the motion. The motion is on the screen. It's fairly self-explanatory. I guess if I go back to last week's agenda briefing meeting, I'd like to acknowledge the three speakers that were able to present. I think they equally gave quite an interesting take on the actual strategy. In particular, the presentations by the Perrin Group and Perth Racing gave a specific focus in terms of the types of things that they would like to do as they move forward. My thinking with the plan, and of course I'd like to acknowledge the council officers for the work that they've done around that plan, because I think that they've done a really good job in their consultation. But I do believe that both Perrin Group and Perth Racing felt that they wanted to be heard more, or their voice was wanting to be heard more in the actual strategy. So one of the things that I was keen on was to give the flexibility at an increased level within the strategy itself, and the dot points there in section 2 there of the motion allow for that flexibility and is still in keeping with the actual spirit of the actual strategy itself. It provides transparency as well, so it would enable the Perth Racing in this sense to be able to plan in the future, knowing that it would have to do quite a lot of work in terms of its own thinking about how it wishes to develop its land. The other important thing is that Perth Racing and the Perrin Group are two major landholders within the city itself, and I believe that their voice needs to be heard and it needs to be reflected in the plan just a little bit more to enable them to have the flexibility that they need with planning in the future. And I believe that by making these adjustments, that it will give both the parent group and Perth Racing the opportunity to plan with a great deal more thought as they move forward. So thank you, Your Worship.
The seconder wishes to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Sekula. The changes Perth Racing have in mind for the future, I do believe Councillor Sekula's alternative motion or motion will provide for that, a little bit more flexibility. And Belmont Forum were very vocal when they did their deputation last week of issues in the document that they weren't happy with some aspects of it, and I think Councillor Sekula's motion covers that. So yeah, I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Marx.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll be voting for this motion, and I think it has at its depth something that's important in local government, and that is that things must look to be right as well as be right. The actual motion put forward by Mr Lowe and the Planning Department was right, but I think Councillor Sekula adds that little bit of depth to it, which tells Perth Racing and the Forum, yes, it's right. So in that respect, I think that Councillor Sekula is correct. I'm a little bit disappointed in the Forum for what they had to say about structure planning and urban open spaces, especially considering they're one of the leaders in urban open spaces in WA with their present forum. I was amazed, and they said they didn't want it. But this does give them the chance to come on board, and even though I thought the flexibility was there anyway, this certainly tells everyone that the flexibility is there. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have an alternative motion about removing investigating paid parking. Are you able to, the mover, to incorporate that into yours so I can vote for it? Because I have strong views on that. So that was submitted. It was supposed to be moved, but are we able to get mine on the screen so we can add that to the mover has agreed? Does the seconder agree? There we go.
Mr Mayor, maybe you can get the mover and the seconder to actually verbalise their agreement rather than just simply nod.
Councillor Sekula, do you agree to remove reference to pay as you use system?
I certainly do, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, do you agree?
Yes, I agree, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Are there any other speakers? No, we'll go back to the mover.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Councillor Davis and to Councillor Marx. I guess, as I've said, it's a fairly self-explanatory change, but one of the things that the city can be very proud of is that it's got a history under as many mayors as I can go back and as many councillors as I can go back to, that it has a history of listening to what individuals need and want, and factoring those needs into whatever the planning notion is at that point in time. And this is just another example of that. So thank you, Your Worship.
Just checking, see if voting's ready. And we are. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons on your microphone. Next 9. Voting is closed. It is carried 8 votes to 1. We move to item 12.2, proposed local planning policy number 19, short-term rental accommodation. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, this item was for public consultation.
Sorry, I need a seconder.
Oh.
So, yep, a seconder, Councillor Sessions. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, yep, I'll start. So this item is So obviously it was just for public consultation, but what I did not want to go out to the public was the cluster area, because I believe the parliamentary inquiry was first and foremost to recognise a register, a short-term accommodation register, management plan, code of conduct, complaints register for the city, because I really feel that's where the issues are that come to council. That's what I see as a councillor. So I have taken out the cluster area for that area in Rivervale and Ascot, and I've also taken out dwellings less than 350 square metre. I do feel that obviously the City of Belmont has a high rental occupancy of 44%, so we do have a high rate of rentals, long-term rentals. We have excellent public transport all throughout Belmont, Kewdale, Cloverdale, the Redcliffe train station. So I don't feel that we have to have that particular area at Great Eastern Highway. And I think Belmont would benefit with the registering plan and the code of conduct and the complaints register. Belmont will benefit with the short-term accommodation stays throughout Belmont and not just in one small area. So that's why I changed the original the comment for public consultation, and hopefully other councillors will support that as well. And thank you.
Thank you. The seconder wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll probably cover a little bit of what Councillor Davis has already said, we're voting tonight for the draft policy to go out for advertising only, so things can still be changed after this, which is really important. And I think the most important thing that will come out of this in the end is what the submissions say once it's been advertised. However, I am also opposed to what could possibly be a cluster of Airbnbs. If you have a look, page 624, there's a map of where they currently are, and they're spread very evenly throughout Belmont, and I think that that's important, and we should keep that option open. More than anything else, it's important that we absolutely have a policy in place for Airbnbs, because a large part of the city's complaints are about Airbnbs. So I think I support this fully.
Thank you. Any other speakers? For or against? For? No? Or for? Councillor Marx?
Speaking against, Mr.
Speaking
Mayor.
against?
No, I agree with what has been brought here in 12.2. I specifically don't like the idea of deleting 8.4 A, B and C. I don't think that's correct. I think that there is an opportunity here for us to put the Airbnbs in with the hotels, motels and generally that mixed-use type zoning that we see along the highway. I think the officers have done the right thing. They've looked at where it's most likely going to be acceptable, and that's the most likely area. It's a way of planning it, which means that the general community is without the stain of Airbnb on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Kulczycki.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. I speak against this alternative motion. We have an evident oversupply of short-term accommodation in Belmont, for example, motels and hotels. Nearly 50% of people in Belmont rent, and that's compared to 1/3 for the rest of WA. We are in the middle of a rental crisis with a vacancy rate of less than 1%, and we need to protect the bulk of our residential areas for the purpose of that is residential. So I agree with the proposal that's been put forward by our officers in that we co-locate properties to the corridor along Great Eastern Highway and also seek the feedback of the community should that not be the view held by the community.
Thank you. Any other further questions? Sorry, any further people speaking on the item, please? Can I ask a question, please, of the Director of Development Communities? Obviously, if we go along this line here and support this alternative motion, how do we get to the general public to advertise this? Because my alternative motion had that we send out letters, but it's obviously impossible in this way. So just wondering, how would we get out to the ordinary resident so they are aware that we are proposing this? Thank you.
That's a good question, Mr. Mayor. The regulations stipulate the statutory requirement for advertising, which is through the newspaper and on the city's website. In general terms, that would hopefully reach most of the community. We can promote it through our social media channels as well. That reaches a good segment of the community as well. The Belmont Bulletin is another avenue that gets delivered to every household. So that can be considered for more wide advertising.
Can I ask a follow-up question then? Would we put something like this in the Belmont Bulletin?
It's not a requirement, so we will comply with the advertising requirements simply by putting it in the newspaper and the city's website. The timing of the Belmont Bulletin is probably the key question. My understanding is it goes out in early April, so that means that there might be an extended advertising period, and it is something that perhaps can be done to publicize the matter more than advertise for the opportunity to make comment.
Thank you very much. Any further speakers? If there's none, I will. Councillor Ryan?
Oh, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. With the last meeting that we had, they were sort of indicating that they were going to have a red zone in future up in Rivervale. Will they continue to put the ordinary properties throughout Belmont and the area as they are at the moment, or will they all be knocked back and everyone will have to go to the red zone? That's what I'd like to know.
I believe this one here's alternative motion removes the red zone, but I'll go to the Director of Development and Communities to confirm.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Davis's alternative motion is for removal of the designated zone, which is basically the street block along Great Eastern Highway.
Thank you. If there's no further speakers, I'll speak on it. I also don't support a cluster of properties in one area, especially along the top end of right across down to Redcliffe, in quality housing that we've worked very hard for a lot of those areas to get families into. But I also have concerns with this. We are removing, I believe, multiple units and smaller blocks, because if one goes into one of these units, and which it will be cheaper than a big property, it could cause bigger problems. This has been a major ongoing problem that I've had over the years. I understand what the officers are doing, but I think we need to rethink all of this either way. Thank you very much. Back to the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the short-term accommodation, it's quite a big issue that's gone on for some time now. It is going to be difficult to get it perfect, and we probably won't. But I also feel having the cluster, the red zone, there's a lot of families there, there's good schools, there's a community, if you're just going to fill that with short-term accommodation, I personally wouldn't want to live in that area if that was potentially going to happen, especially if I had a young family. I think we have to sort of spread it out a little bit and be mindful of the existing residents. They deserve their community that they moved into, the houses that they bought. And it is a great area around there. Rivervale is a very up-and-coming area, so I don't know why we would do that. I'm not 100% sure on that, so that's why I've taken that out of the officer's recommendation. Also, there's a national rental crisis. It's not just in Belmont, it's everywhere. So, why are we doing this just because there's a rental crisis? It's everywhere. It's the economy at the moment. This isn't going to change that. So that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons on your microphone screen for the alternative motion. Has everyone voted? Who is it? There's still one more. There we go. Thank you very much. The alternative motion is carried 6-3. We move to 13.3, Scheme Amendment 22. Councillor Kulczycki, we need a move. You're the mover. Need a seconder. Councillor Sessions, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Rossi. I wish to commend the proactive approach taken by the City's Planning Department in preparing the scheme amendment before us tonight. The recent DAP decision to reject an application to build a warehouse at the end of St Kilda Road and Acton Avenue, fronting Great Eastern Highway in Rivervale. So this proposal did concern many residents within the West Ward. The scheme amendment strengthens the objectives of the mixed-use zone along Great Eastern Highway in promoting development that is compatible with the residential and other non-active uses on upper levels. It also complements feedback received from the community as part of the draft corridor strategy that has been developed in recent years, which Council will consider later this year. I encourage councillors to support this motion.
Thank you. To the seconder? No, just we speak. Anyone wish to speak for? Go ahead, Councillor Marks.
Does this mean that Councillor Kulczycki is thanking the people on the JDAP who got this defeated?
Councillor Kulczycki, are you?
Yes, this involves all that were involved with this decision. Thank you.
All levels. Everyone takes the credit. Thank you. Any other speakers, please? If there's none, we'll go back to Councillor Kulczycki.
I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons on your microphone screen. Voting is now closed. Carried unanimously. Thank you. I would now like to advise, in accordance with Section 5.32 CE of the Local Government Act 1985, if there are any questions, debate on the confidential items for tender, which we don't have to do because no one withdrew that, right? We're good. We move on. We move to 13. I'm a little bit too eager. 13.1, reports by the Chief Executive Officer, request for leave. Are there any requests for leave of absence? There are none. Notice of motion 13.2, there are none. Matters of which the meeting may be closed. We have two confidential matters this evening. I will now, matters for which the meeting may be closed. We have two confidential matters for this evening. I will now close the meeting in accordance with Section 5.23B of the Local Government Act 1995. I have a move and a second to go behind closed doors. Moved by Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Sessions. Voting is now open. Please use your buttons. Carried unanimously. Would the IT officer please pause the live streaming? please invite the public back into the meeting. I wish to state item 14.1, nomination for honorary freedman of the city, moved by Councillor Sessions, seconded by Councillor Sakula, that Council bestow the title of honorary freedman of the city upon the nominee for service to the City of Belmont. Request 2, that the nominee remain confidential until after the bestowal ceremony. Item 14.2, Code of Conduct matter, moved by Councillor Sakula, seconded by Councillor Carter. And it was lost 8-0. There being no further business to conduct, I thank all those in attendance and close the meeting at 8:27 p.m. Thank you very much.